So first things first, I want to give a huge thanks to the Dragon Ball fandom. Last week, I admitted something that I was actually a little worried to admit, because it's pretty easy to just say that, oh yeah, I've been a Dragon Ball fan my whole life. And honestly, I could have bullshitted my way through this entire anime, and honestly, a majority wouldn't know. But I've had anime communities be incredibly toxic for me for way lesser things. And typically, when you say like you're trying to jump aboard something that's been ongoing for a while, they get super red in the face. And, there was a couple of people who I was like, what in the hell are they even talking about? Where in episode 1 did I even indicate I didn't like it? But you know what? People will be people. But for the most part, people just welcomed me with open arms. They said, come on in. Most of us started in the middle of the story anyway. Dragon Ball Z is a sequel to Dragon Ball, and we didn't know that for most of our lives. So I want to say thank you. Because here's the thing, as an outsider looking in, I assumed like many shonen communities, they're usually not the best to interact with. But Dragon Ball has so far welcomed me with open arms and said, hey, let's all just watch some Dragon Ball. And honestly, after watching episode 2, this just feels like a Dragon Quest video game with Dragon Ball characters. And to me, that sounds absolutely wonderful, and I'm getting such a great taste of where these characters are going. And it's only episode 2, and I want to go watch everything Dragon Ball now. So I think it's pretty safe to say that I'm already a fan, and I haven't even seen anything that crazy yet. But I already love the world, I love the characters, I love that we're going to the Demon Realm. Vegeta is going to be coming with us eventually once that damn ship gets fixed. Like, Dragon Ball Daima, I just think is the perfect way to jump aboard the series if you are a new fan. And for those older fans, we're about to go on a very, very fun adventure. Now, of course, I do have full live reactions over on Patreon. If you want to see my full and good thoughts on any of these Dragon Ball episodes, it's over there exclusively. So, episode 1, I thought they did a good job. They literally gave us recap of a lot of big things that happened over the course of the anime. But at the end of the day, episode 2 just feels like it's a lot more like, okay, now that setup's out of the way, let's just have some fun. I did see some pushback in terms of people being like, oh man, we already did the kid thing before, but from everything I read about Toriyama before his passing, this really just felt like doing something new. Like, even if some of the ideas at face value Dragon Ball's done before, it seems like this is going to be something that is still brand spanking new. And if you look at the opening and you look at the ending, both songs, by the way, just spectacular. I absolutely love them. The opening specifically, though, that was so good. It looks like the Demon World is going to be such a fun adventure because at the end of the day, right, I am someone who loves fantasy. I am. But I like shonen, I like romance, I like mystery. I'm a guy who can watch anything. My current favorite anime this season is about a guy who discovers that the universe doesn't revolve around the Earth. I'm not some monkey brain who only needs just fists hitting other people, but I'm also a guy. I like seeing fists hit other people. And I appreciate that rather than Dragon Ball Daima just throwing me into like, here's some crazy action, instead we get some pretty fun setup. One of the things that caught me by surprise, because I really thought we were getting 3 wishes, but I think it's a pretty good safety feature. So because you're just kind of random strangers, yeah, I'll give you the wish, but I ain't gonna give you all 3. And immediately when I hear that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well then we're definitely going to the Demon Realm just so we can get their Dragon Balls and probably wish us back into our normal bodies. Now, some people are really rocking the new bodies. Master Roshi, I don't know how much they're going to lean into this gag, but an old man back to his young self, if he doesn't rizz up the ladies at some point in this show, I'm going to be disappointed. Because, like, the swaggers just kind of says it all. And some of the characters in their, like, younger form, I think it kind of pulls off in a badass way. The Gokus, the Vegetas, characters like those. Like, you can just be like, okay, you can still see them kicking ass and taking names. And then other characters, you're like, okay, you guys are just babies at this point. And like I said in my episode 1 video, I think there's something hilarious about, because I've seen a lot of different fights. Now, I haven't seen every fight in Dragon Ball, but I've seen key episode fights in terms of just videos online and whatnot. So I know what Dragon Ball can look like in terms of action, and it's always looked cool from an outsider looking in. And imagining these character models doing some of the shit that I've seen tease it makes me smile, man. I find that shit adorable. And honestly, the idea of going, we're in the spaceship, we're going off. Obviously, we kind of get recruited. There's a little skepticism. Can we trust this guy or not? But at the end of the day, it just, especially when I watch the ending song, I just feel like this is going to be like half babysitter, half mentor as we're trying to reconquer the demon world sort of a thing. And this is the second episode in a row that the TV got brought up. In episode 1, which I think is still the funniest thing I've heard all season, I'm not gonna give you the password for the Dragon Balls, no matter how much you torture me. Don't worry, bro. I watched a video on this. Has the password. In this episode, how do you know about this stuff? I watched it on a magical TV. They need to just keep going with that, because the more I hear of it, the more funny it becomes. But it just seems like it's such a fun idea. Like, at the end of the day, if people weren't a fan, because I forget which anime it was in Dragon Ball, but this isn't the first time, as far as I'm aware, that they've gone into younger forms. The thing is I mean, Dragon Ball is also not the first time I'm sure Goku's done some crazy shit and launched some crazy energy at someone, right? I mean, there's gonna be things that you've probably seen before, but as long as the author writes it in a different way, it can still be brand spanking new. And honestly, just the vibe of the presentation, how good the animation already is, and just the product, like when Goku when he got his weapon back and was swinging, like that animation didn't need to go that hard. It really didn't. But just, it feels like, you know, obviously, this was probably never intended to be the final work of Toriyama before his passing. This was probably just something that, at least based on what I'm reading, is, you know, something he really wanted to do in a very specific way. And it does feel like a passion project, based on, in terms of interviews and stuff that I've read up on. So to me, it's like, I do think some people who maybe like Dragon Ball for a very specific reason, I think there is that pushback a little bit like, hey, do I really want to see these characters that are so badass in this cutesy form? I honestly think just go in with an open mind. I think this could be a Dragon Ball anime that does things for the long-term fans who love every type of style, who are in for it more than just the crazy fights. And don't get me wrong, there are people even in my own comment section last week. I shut my brain off when I watch Dragon Ball. I'm just here to have fun. I think Dragon Ball is a mixture of ideas, but the one thing I can appreciate about the Dragon Ball community, which you can't say about a lot of communities, especially with shonens, they are probably one of the chillest that I've seen so far. Now granted, the night's still young, you guys can prove me wrong, but the number of people who I saw just, even outside my comment section, people are like, I just watched to watch Goku beat up people, to I watch for the character, like, there's so many different opinions, but it doesn't really feel toxic. Which, in general, I view battle shonen communities as one of the more toxic ones, because typically they get way too heated over the most mindless shit. And given the number of death battles I've seen Goku a part of, I guess from an outsider looking in, thought it was going to be a lot more like pushback, like, I don't know, it just, the community surprised me is what I'm saying, and I had a blast. I like this even more than the first episode. Obviously helps that I'm getting more accustomed to how characters' personalities are going to be. I mentioned it last week. As I expected, some people didn't like this opinion, but that's just my opinion. I do prefer Goku's voice in dub. I do. However, seeing Goku in a smaller body, I think the voice fits a little better, and I like the Japanese voice of Goku in this episode. That's just me, though. I mean, I don't care if people love Goku's voice in Japanese when he's in his normal body. But that's just my opinion, but I definitely liked him better in this episode. Either way, though, I think I'm a Dragon Ball fan now. Night's still young, things could change, but I appreciate that people are like, hey, don't even worry about it, bro. Half of us were watching in the middle of the story anyway. Jump aboard Daima and just enjoy the ride. I appreciate you being so welcome with open arms. Let me know what you thought of Dragon Ball Daima Episode 2 down below. How excited are you for Episode 3? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're around here. Of course, ring that bell. Like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll give you a video shout out. So today we got Sarnik, Missing No Leader, Jade, and we also have K-Talk. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you all have a good one.